Best behavior, everybody.
Best behaviour. So, what are we talking? Are we live now? Oh, I think we're live now, aren't we? Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Hello, Johnny, hello, Grey Arrows. Who else is? Simon and Sparky's absolutely right. Rid will fix everything.
And a special
here we
welcome to
go.
our CAA viewers, eh?
A special welcome to all our viewers from the CAA. Yet again. Hello there, Matt, Mr. MPW. Great pleasure having you along.
All right.
So let's start with Bill first, from Aggie and the eBee wing fame, because when we get into this in a minute, Bill, it's really gonna you might want to stick around. It's going to be pretty gruesome. Bill, why aren't there more wings about? I really like wings. I love wings. When we started, we all started with wings. They're useful. They're handy. They're small. They go longer. All the other good things. They carry a reasonable payload. Why aren't you selling more wings, Bill?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's the demand for wings is out there. I mean, certainly on where you need longer endurance flights, longer endurance missions, and we've seen some pretty good results with the ones that we have delivered. So we do offer some benefits, over VTOL platforms. However, there's a valid use for VTOL as well. If you need to stay in one spot and travel vertically to inspect a tall building or something like that, there are certain advantages that VTOL drones have. But we tend to go with the wings. We prefer those from the endurance perspective, and we think they're extremely relevant for the missions that we try to support, both civil and military.
And just remind everybody, for folks that may not have looked at eBees for a while, where did it come from? What was the history of eBee, and how have they changed over the years?
Well, the eBee is actually came directly out of this business. So if you look back at what was the SenseFly business, it was spun off out of Parrot, and has always existed in Switzerland. And so Parrot spun it off. We acquired the business back in 2019, I believe, 2018, 2019. And so the eBee drone has existed for quite a while, but there's been several models out there. There are currently 3 that are active: the eBee X, the eBee TAC, and the eBee Vision. Each one of them has a slightly different use. But again, we find a lot of advantages with these types of systems, both from a weight perspective and a mission endurance.
So you've got 90-minute flight time on your website here, and up to 500 hectares. That's
correct.
That's quite a claim. And is that specifically with the sensors that we saw above? There we are.
Yeah, it's specifically equipped with those sensors, and we actually do achieve that 90-minute flight time. In fact, the latest model, the eBee Vision, has been shown to fly longer than that. We advertise 90, but it's done much longer in terms of its actual missions.
Let's see, will we find that Vision here if I go?
We should.
To find it here, shouldn't I? Should find it here. Well, I'm never very well behaved. Not behaved, prepared, behaved, or whatever. Quite interesting the way the wings join the fuselage there at an angle. That's quite a clever way of what I was going to say. Do they break off at that point if you clip something when you come down? Or
if you look at no, the wings will not clip off if you hit something on the way down. The wings are removable, however. They're fairly easily detachable, and so you can actually pack the system in a backpack or a case. So you basically detach the wings, pack the system all up. On the eBee Vision, the latest one, you take the battery out of the system, the comm devices, and pack them separately. The whole thing, when you get to a site and you want to go into operation, it only takes 3 minutes from the time you put your pack down to open it up, get everything attached, and start flying. So pretty quickly deployable system, very robust. We've shown this thing landing well over 400 times with very little damage to the platform.
And who's your main buyer for this system? I see that camera looks to be looking slightly forward as well in that, rather than straight down.
Correct. Yeah. The main buyer that we have, the biggest one to date, is the French Army for the eBee Vision. There are other purchases that have been made, but I'm not going to identify those buyers quite yet.
Sure.
Let's just say that
Sure.
there'll be announcements coming out at the appropriate time. But the French Army is the biggest one, and we've helped them to handle some realistic issues in the field when we first got out there. So we're doing everything we can to support a very positive adoption.
Oh, and look, the master, I think, Flight, the master of wings, or another master of wings, is in the chat. So he's your man. So what else do I want? Well, does anyone else want to chip in while we're here?
I think for me, we used the eBee Plus when it very first came out years and years ago, and I think we had the first XOM when the XOM was released into the UK to do inspections with. And the thing for me with the eBee in particular was always that the emotion software was awesome because you could do everything and simulate it all before you even got out in the field and make sure all your heights and everything were correct. But then the best thing for us, like we used to take it all over the world, and we'd take a spare pair of wings with us, and the resilience in terms of landing it on a site in the middle of nowhere, and if you did ding something up on a rock or whatever it might have been, actually a bit of duct tape would get you up and running again so you could complete the task. So so it was pretty pretty good even back then,
Excellent.
Right tool for the job, right? That's what it's all about in the drone game. It's not about the drone, it's about data, and even more than that, it's about actionable data now.
Actionable data. Ding, 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 ding.
Not even about the data. So it doesn't matter how you get it, you've got to get what the client needs for them to value what you're doing, right? So
that's a very key point that you bring up, because a lot of people forget that. There's a lot of excitement out there about drones, and everybody thinks of the hardware, but it is what you get from the mission sensors, whatever mission you're trying to fly, that really matters, right? If you can make those customers happy, that's a good thing.
Yep.
And these are all completely NDAA and all those other good things.
Correct. Okay,
so they're good to go. In whatever the evolving situation in America should prove to be. It's very interesting today. We have the new DJI thing out, and it's not for sale over there. I mean, that's a first, isn't it? It's very interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry we don't see more of these. I like them. I like them very much indeed. Is there anything else you particularly wanted to highlight in your range with us?
No, I think the big thing is our company for a long time focused on agriculture and other civil missions. We just started branching off into a significant part of our business being engaged in the military. So we view ourselves as a multi-mission system and a multi-mission perspective right now. We are really focused on handling both the real-time surveillance as well as the photogrammetry type missions that we always supported with the other two systems. Doing the detailed mapping, 3D visualization, and everything we do. It's a very exciting time. I'm happy to be part of the company. I joined a little over a year ago, and we're taking everything to new heights. And so we really appreciate the support we get.
And I suppose, are you able to build them at scale for current events to the east of Europe? Are you able to build in big numbers?
Yeah, we sure can. We can build at about 4 times our current production rate without touching the facility. So we're in pretty good shape to expand just as we are. We're also looking at a production line in the United States to serve the U.S. market. So that's all in the planning phase right now. So excited about that expansion too.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a proven airframe, isn't it? It's
yes.
or a family of airframes and software, and so I'm sure it will receive plaudits from those folks that count. Stay with us, Bill, and tut and nod or shake your head, because we're going to get into the meat and bones of this one. Or should we jump into any other stories that might be about first? The only story I'm really thinking about is the falling drone as a first responder Skydio system that apparently allegedly landed on the roof of a I've got a little bit of video of that. Landed on a roof in New York, caught fire, and was put out. Has anyone heard any more than that? No?
No, but I can tell you a couple of stories about DFR if you like.
Oh, you can, and we'll see. We'll see if we concur. Go ahead with your DFR story. Over.
Well, some time ago, I was invited over to Belgium to see a DFR demo of a Nokia platform, which I have been following for a while, and it was really interesting. So I went out there, and the Nokia have their own drone, which is a six-bladed sort of hexcopter, and they have a very industrial DFR drone in a box solution, very industrial, but very, very nice. And we've all seen boxes open and drones fly out of them, and that's exactly what happened. But what was really interesting for me was actually the business model side of it, and because I don't know whether you know, but I don't actually fly that many drones. We'll get onto that later. But I don't actually do the flying. So I went over to Belgium, and I was really interested in the business model behind their DFR solution and rollout. And it transpires that over there, they have lots of federal police forces, but they have one national fire brigade. And it's actually the fire brigade that are kind of leading the DFR process on that. And the fire stations are looking at whether or not they can deploy DFR and build their systems, and that's really where they're at the moment. So they have a solution there that that can be deployed, and that the police can call into and ask for support from the fire brigade. But it's actually the fire brigade that are operating it, not the police as such. And the key that made me think that in the DFR program over here, because we obviously have multiple police forces, some of them have got big helicopters that are coming into life, etc., and they're very expensive. But the key thing was that actually somebody from the fire brigade in the UK, who will remain nameless, he turned around to me and said, "You see, the trouble is with DFR and the police is we've moved all the big cities, we've moved all the police stations out of the center of the city. We've built them these nice sort of, glass fronted, beautifully designed, architecturally designed police stations out of town. And of course that, where's the fire station? Still in town. So kind of, there's a lot to be said there for actually the fire service actually getting involved and running drone as a first responder, because they're actually in the center of the town. And that's, and the police in the UK are slowly moving out. But where, from what people tell me, I think what British Transport Police are doing with their DFR trials, and some of them are live, is quite interesting, because they're operating as with a state vehicle exemption. So they're they're exempt. And then I think that the rest of the police forces, I thought there was going to be some sort of cohesion coming towards the end of last year, but I think that each police force is going to go out and procure their own. So I don't think there's that much joined up thinking. But anyway, I'm going to conclude by saying there's a big business case, though, for the fire brigade operating the DFR. And where did that drone land in New York, did you say?
Police station, apparently. Let's just share the audio.
Fire station, they could have just put it out.
Well, please, absolutely. Yeah, just tell me if you hear this audio.
Yep.
1044, we're going to drop down to an 18, 249, and 113 to operate. PD had a drone land on the roof that went on fire. They put it out prior to our arrival, and 249 and 113 are just soaking it down with the can. All units going to be in the process in 3 minutes.
So that was exciting.
There you go.
But I think in the UK, it strikes me that the police forces are desperate to buy small gear themselves, as you've sort of said, and they operate outside of the MPAS stuff, which to me is madness. You say put them on fire stations. I say it should be operating. The drones should be operating with NPAS, in my humble opinion. But of course, the NPAS are about to have trials of a Schliebel, quite a big thing in the Bristol area in September. And I think that's really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons.
That's what's been flying out of Lid from the. Oh no, that was Tech Ever.
Yeah. No, that's Tech Ever in Lid, but the Schliebel has been at Lid as well. It has been there, but that is in the coastal role, whoever runs that. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be just north of Bristol, and it's going to be
is that
over
really
the Cotswolds.
Is that what really the big UK push for RID is all about? Is it all about making sure that the police?
Oh, we've got to RID already.
Is it all there so
No.
that the drones can be seen by NPAS?
No, so they can make some money.
Money,
They want to rush.
money,
They want to rush to network remote ID is what they actually want to do. Yeah, but that's too early. It's too early for the RID talk. We have got to have that RID talk though, because that is that. Yeah. Oh, no, you got me angry about that.
I've ruined the flow, haven't I?
Yes,
Have we got to though? Have we got to have that retalk? Must we?
Well, I think we do really, because we're falling into it, aren't we? We love RID. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, RID for
to be honest, the CAA viewers that are watching, they'll be really disappointed if we don't talk about RID.
Sorry, Ian, I cannot comment. All right.
Okay.
But to be fair, it's better to have a burning police drone on your roof than a helicopter crashing through it like happened in the UK, isn't it?
It is. It is. That was a long time ago now. Our younger viewers won't remember that, Bruce, for the helicopter that went through. Was it a bar in Glasgow? I think it was.
Yeah, it was a bar.
Yeah, it was a bar.
So it shows the intrinsic safety of unmanned aircraft over manned aircraft.
You bring up a good point.
More. We need to do more regulation on them. They're too safe.
They're too safe. Yeah, absolutely. But it's the manner in which this has been done. It's not actually all rubber stamped, is it? This is all in the proposal stage, but it's being spoken of as if it's done, and that annoys me in itself. So people are jumping up and down about it, or very sanguine about it, and the model aircraft community, which is the thing that pains me the most, I suppose, seem very happy that they think they're getting a carve. Well, they are getting a carve out for their model flying sites, but again, it's always around to that, the 12-year-old me. So now in the UK, as I've said before, so when I was a youngster, my parents wouldn't have been around when I was flying my model gliders on the school holidays because they were working. But now they would need to be around if I was a youngster for my little bit of paperwork, and now they'd have to take me to an official model flying site. It really does. It's really gonna shrink down where aviation comes from, where it sparks a love and people become grown-up real drivers of things. So that's my biggest worry. And as Simon says, the consultation was indeed 80% against, and they're going forward with it.
Hey, it's a consultation, not democracy. Not democracy, it's just a consultation.
I was going to say, it was quite a bit above 80%. It was something like 86% as well. We can't forget that extra percentage.
I don't know. We don't want that to happen, though, do we? We definitely don't want that to happen. Surely.
I think the point of some of the model aircraft community are obviously smart enough to click that something is untoward in it all, especially when you all say we don't want this, and you're the user base, you're the customer, you should be being listened to. But we know, as we discussed at the time, I mean, we knew well before the consultation was even published that the Home Office were pulling the strings there. It's all the Home Office. The Home Office effectively been paying out of their budget to date for the counter drone stuff, and this is a great way they push for it, and they try and then get the model aircraft and drone community to pay for the gear. That's really part of it, of what it's about. But then it's. I mean, we can bring it up later, but and you can show the business case for people who can't remember it. But we did discuss the business case back at the time of the consultation. And it's even clearer now when you go back and read it that it quite literally says they will be levying, it says revenue streams, but effectively they will be levying fees of whatever nature, and they expect to recoup the cost back. Now, the cost back then was 15 million. Now, I am told of a rumour, and I won't say the amount because I'm told I'm not allowed to say the amount, but I know that it has grown significantly since then. So before even a line of code has been written, the cost of it has already climbed.
Would it be a number just less than double the first number that you said?
Well, it was 10 to 15. It was 10 to 15. So it depends how you count it and whether it's double or not. But is it 20 million is published now? In that case, there we go, 20 million. You've got me out of that then, of dropping somebody in it. So there we go, 20 million. So it's already gone up since that document was published. It probably won't be the last time it's going to go up, because the estimate was based off a claimed estimate of how much the US was going to spend. But the US never went through with the system, and they didn't go through with it because DGI paid like an economic consultancy to go away and do proper maths on this and work it out. And they came back with it would be 10 times more. It was 9 to 10 times more expensive than the FAA had estimated. So really, our estimate is based on the estimate the FAA made that was then found to be 10 times too small. So it's definitely got the opportunity to massively overrun in cost.
Well, and what staggered me, I should have had this ready to go for when you stopped saying, what staggered me, absolutely staggered me, was that then, so we discussed this, and then the CIA says, oh, can anyone tell us about multilateration and ADSB and other stuff and beacons and stuff? It's like, what? We should have been playing this game 10 years ago, 20 years ago. ADSB's been around since the 90s. It's annoying. It's very annoying. And CAA, stop it.
Sparky here says, RID on a 100-gram drone. Yeah, in the USA, you've got to have RID on a 20-gram drone if you're using it commercially.
Yeah. It's not cool. And you look, I'm not against systems that improve aviation safety. I'm not against that at all. I am. And RID, aircraft can't see RID. Yes, a copper can see RID. Well, that's great. But so can a Karen. Karen, as we know, we full well know that you just got to get the app and you can see what's around you. Not only what's around you, but you can also see where the operator is, the location of the operator.
There is a point. I need to jump on this point.
Yeah.
Now, this is my understanding, and given all what's up in the air at the minute, this could change anyway. So this was how it was supposed to be, and might not be how it will end up.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that maybe those in power had listened a bit to some of the rants ourselves and others will have had. But I don't think it's even that. I think it's actually fear of falling foul of the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, because what I'm told is that it will try and use network, so it will be sending off all your data. And there's genuine concerns about network, which we can get onto. But the idea is it will be using network. But if it can't, the idea is then it would do the local read. Now, the local read in the US gives away your position as a pilot. And this is the funny bit. We had Tridge on a while ago. They was doing the coding for Autopilot on it. And the specification is more bothered with being precise on where the pilot is than it is where the drone is. It's like, your drone, pilot, boom, this is where you are. And that's all it's about. But the problem with that was it was giving your location out to anybody that wanted it. So, and we've seen already, and although we can't say it's down to raid, it might just be coincidence, but we do know that there's been pilots that have been robbed, and there's been an attempted murder of a pilot in the US, drone pilot.
He probably deserved it.
So, if people are the way out to cause harm, this is great. You've got the app to do it. If you want to go out and do a robbery, the interesting thing is the amount of kit a typical drone pilot is likely to be carrying is more than the average bank robbery in the US these days. So it is worth keeping that in mind, that there is a value there. Obviously, you lose some of that value when you're selling it because you're going to be shifting it down some second-hand shop or whatever. But, in theory, it's more money.
It's a good thing you won't be able to clone RID-like plates on cars.
Your knowledge of fencing is quite superb, Ian.
My first job was working at a pawnbroker. So anyway, so what I was going to get to was, so what apparently happened, was going to happen with the UK one, was when it went to the local mode, it wouldn't put it out to, you wouldn't put out the pilot's details. It would just put out the drones. And then what it would do is next time you were connected to the internet, it would sync all that information. So it'd be up on the server. So the server would have everything. But for that moment where you to be transmitted locally, where Karens were about, you would be safe. That was the way it was told to me. But whether that will truly be the case, if they're worried about thinking, well, we might not get paid for network RID, maybe they'll start cutting corners and then saying, oh, well, we'll just do the US system, we'll put the pilot's information out there. But I do think if they did that if people made a complaint to the Information Commissioner, it would soon be knocked on the head, because there has been a Home Office trial with tagging immigrants, and there was a big kick-off about that. So it was basically, you're not complying with GDPR and you've not justified why you need to do this and all that kind of thing. So I think the drone community and the model fly community could make a good reason for why it's not justified, because you can say, well, we've already got aeroscope, we've already got RF detections, we've already got counter drone at all these places. You're making a duplicate system and you're not handling data in a responsible manner with it. So yeah, I think there's a fight there to be had, but we'll have to see what pans out to the technical solution.
The problem is, though, they don't care about what we say. Look at it, 85% said no. They're going, yeah, don't worry about it, go away. We're not interested in your opinions. We just have to go through it. It's a box ticking exercise.
The thing that's good about that is it did prove what we said at the outset, that it was a stitch up. We had the emails at the time where it traced back to a consultancy brought in to push RID, and they'd actually done the email saying, get us impactful data to use in the consultation. So the consultation has had data in it that hasn't been verified. The CAA have done this for freedom of information. They had no input into it. They'd done no due diligence kind of thing on it. It was basically, we were told to put this in. It's nothing to do with us. So basically,
it's use the consultants. Yeah. It's use the consultants removing yourself from blame trick, isn't it? And for viewers counting at home, those are the same consultants that are pushed through SORA on £10,000 a day. £10,000 a day.
So now you can see why the CIA has been so obstructive in the Gatwick thing, because if they're going to use Gatwick to justify this sort of thing, then they can't have people proving that Gatwick didn't happen. There was no Gatwick drone, so they've got to try and protect that Gatwick drone. It's their trump card for getting this pushed through.
Yeah, I mean, this is it again. We really should be bringing this up and showing it, Gary, while since we've got into the talk.
Come on, Gary, what are you playing at?
What was it? It was that thing, wasn't it? You know I don't prepare. You know it. I sent it to you somewhere else, didn't I? Where did we do that?
I can
just keep talking in. You find it in. You find it in.
But we've got years of experience in the USA. They've had RID for how long now, and how many times has it been used? Look at the New Jersey drone scandal. No one checked with the RID to see if there were drones. No. We've got this technology we're not going to use, but we want to force it on people, and it's going to happen again in the UK. It's never proven itself to be of any value, yet it's a huge expense.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, in America, it was proven that RID was useless because RID didn't stop the drone at the attempted assassination of Trump. It didn't do anything for New Jersey or New York with huge panics. All it did do was prove how useless it was. And then the Shores was then appointed to go and start testing proper counter-drone systems as we use over here to then, be deployed instead. Oh, you click into the one on the left there, Gary. And then you can expand. So basically on this, we can see that, where is it on here? Oh yeah, second paragraph down, and where they've got the dashes.
Drone misuse.
So Gatwick is cited. The moment you're citing Gatwick, you're trying to push something that you haven't got a good argument for, because that's your desperation card. That is. It then goes on, and it's using an FAA figure, which I don't believe is correct. So what I do know is whatever figure they had was a massive underestimate. So this is the massive underestimate, but I need to do some more digging to see if that was even even correct. It might, because the DJI document suggests actually their estimate was much higher than this. I think more around 50 million, and then it should be 500 million. So that needs a bit more digging on. But I think that is in itself inaccurate.
Well, and that Swiss system didn't work. That £5 million.
The Swiss thing, I think, it was only a trial anyway, wasn't it?
It was a shed. It was a shed in a mountain or something else. It was next to nothing. Didn't work. So that's
the important point here that people need to look at again, because it's in business analyst kind of language. People don't immediately absorb it all, but it's quite clearly saying that RID's going to produce revenue, and that revenue is going to pay for what the system costs. So that straight away tells you that is saying it's going to bring in at least 15 million. Now, once it started bringing it in, no one's turning that tap off. So they're getting 15 million out of you straight away.
Yeah.
And then we'll just keep that money rolled in. And obviously this cost is only development. It's not running. Now, we know already we've got a very simple system that could be running on the Raspberry Pi, and that's costing about 2 million a year to run a Pi.
I get this from. I get this from that, don't I? Yeah, I hope I keep this. This would be really important to me, this thing.
The question is, what's that going to cost a year to run? Is it going to be costing 5-10 million a year to run? All these are questions that haven't been answered. And we know again,
surely this is just a technology to effectively that's going to cost the law-abiding drone pilot more money, whilst the law-breaking drone pilot carries on regardless. Is that about right?
Do you remember that?
Right, it's exactly what's going to happen. Because obviously, the argument that's made, the only argument that's semi-good, and it's already we can shoot it into the ground. But this is the argument: is they can say, but basically what they say is, after they said, "Oh well, it'll make us lots and lots of money, but let's not tell anybody," is, well, if we can see all the good actors, we know that anybody that isn't a good actor is got to be a bad actor. Well, that would be good and fine, but already by having aeroscope, you're essentially doing that, because that's all everyone with your DJI kit. So that's only going to be good actors transmitting or idiots. So you basically got all them together, and then anyone that's got a self-built drone that's going to be doing contraband, you already know that's not showing up on your aeroscope and that, so you can consider that a bad actor. So it kind of doesn't. Their argument, you can say, oh, wait a minute, you've got aeroscope already, you've got RF detectors already, so you can fill in those blanks even now. You don't need to go to this system. And the thing is with RID, it's an inferior system to the drone ID for the range and so on. That's what they found in America. They put it on everything, and then they still don't know where, who's doing what, where, when, and how. So with network, arguably you do get a bit more, but the trouble with network is we know where that's going to go. It will be, the problem is you've got all the history as well, so that can be trolled. All it needs, and we see it all the time, all you need is one civilian member of staff, or even a police officer. We see all the time police using the national computer system when they shouldn't be doing. They have a divorce and it's, have an ex-wife, this, that, other, Barney with somebody, I'll have a look. And so the trouble is all that data's there and somebody will abuse it. And it's a lot of power then to be abused. And also you've got the fact that we know what they want to do with it is troll it with an AI. You can do so much monitoring, and then you can be pinging off. And if you look at the BBC story back in December for the Gatwick one, it's specifically, they've let it be known already that they want to do what those on the spot finds. I forget what the correct term is, but basically they've already said it. They want to do automated fines against drones. So sorry,
fixed penalty notice.
That's it, fixed penalty. So the problem we've got with that was just because we've discussed before. If somebody spoofs GPS, it pings your location somewhere else, you're then getting a fine through the post. Yeah. So, and if you've got a GPS glitch, fine through the post. And as we've seen with the post office system, things go wrong, and there's never a way. Often, if you're getting out of it and arguing it and proving it, at least with your vehicle, when you're in your car and you get a fine, there's to be a photograph. And you go, oh, wait a minute, that ain't me. Well, no one's taken a photograph, of the pilot. So all it's been done is on the digital database. So you are going to be stitched up for that money.
It's quite funny.
But won't the courts have to chime in eventually on this topic, where it's like your car example, like you've got the secondary proof? Like, at what point do you just do spoofing?
The trouble is, this is really bad. People need to have a look at X. There's a journalist on X, and he's actually publishing all these cases in court. So that there is cases every day, terrible cases. So there's so many organisations that can actually just put through essentially digital data and say you're guilty. So you've got the TV license.
Terrible things happening.
But there's far more than the TV license. There's all kinds of stuff. So these people literally in a coma. So they're in hospital in a coma. So they haven't paid the bill, and they get a criminal record. We're literally doing this to people, and no recourse afterwards. You got people.
And it can be 800 cases a day seen by one barrister who just goes tick 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 or click 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 click.
Yeah, these are all straight through the court, and they're not even being considered. It's just it's almost an automated process. So if you had this going through, your chances of arguing this, even when you could prove it, you could say, I wasn't even in the country then. No, I was in hospital in a coma. There's no way I'm flying that drone. You could still find yourself in a position where it's just put through, and there you go. You're in trouble.
It's got to be getting on for 10 years. We've been moaning on about RIS, isn't it? We don't want it. Whatever it is, it seems to have made no difference at all.
For an armed uprising, we have the technologies.
Oh no! There's all revenue going.
I just see this. I've got this mental picture in my head of the drone pilot going, "Oh, I'm sorry, chaps, I can't fly the contraband into the prison tonight because I forgot my RID."
Quite so. And without the correct paperwork, nothing flies. Let's quickly introduce Matt, because. And move on to, because we were going 30 something odd minutes already. I'm sure all our viewers know Matt.
Oh gosh,
he's a helicopter driver, all these other good things.
Infamous.
Yeah.
For all the wrong reasons, it seems.
Exactly. I'm just going to put a link to his website in the chat there. But him and Chris are like blood brothers in some ways, really. Did the old thing and cut the hands, because neither of them are making friends with the CAA in the UK. But I'm just glad that I've got my one of my requirements in the UK, and they're not going to take it from me, because I don't think they ever could. But I think, well, Chris, I mean, I'm trying to lead you in here, but I don't know how. Come on, as you said.
Solid segue.
Yeah, that went well.
I've been banned.
So you haven't got one of these anymore. But it's okay, because
I have. It's been suspended.
So's mine. Looks around my neck.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So yours has been suspended. So what are the implications of that? What does it matter?
My flyer ID has been suspended, and I have a letter from the Civil Aviation Authority saying that I mustn't fly any unmanned aerial system in UK airspace. But the interesting thing on that is, obviously, I can't really say very much about this, obviously, because it's all in legal process at the moment, and there were some developments as late as 6 p.m. tonight, which was amused me no end. But I haven't flown a drone in a long time, and if I'm honest, and I'm reasonable, but I'm not that good at flying drones. I'm old, and I'm used to flying planes and looking out the front window, and so I generally use better pilots than myself. So I set up if we want to go and do some research flying, we'll contract in or we employ pilots to fly. But so I've had my flyer ID revoked and been told not to fly any UAS by any in UK airspace, which is fair enough, because the last time I flew a drone in UK airspace was, I don't know, maybe 7 months ago. And a few weeks ago on this very, very prestigious program of yours, I mentioned that I have plans to fly more drones. And, I do own a Mini 4 and I do quite like it. I'm getting better at it. And I might want to fly it in the future. And that's, some of the reasons, maybe that's a reason in the future I want to fly. It's just because I want to fly my Mini 4. But if I'm going to fly, anything, in the future, it's sort of, I still have the legal right, I think, to fly in the open category. So, well, I used to before my flyer ID was revoked. But it's really, I think somebody has decided that they didn't like me on here, and it was kind of knee-jerked from it, really. So that's all I can actually say on it. There you go. So, Matt, what about you? Tell your story. What happened to you?
Yeah, well, I moved to Canada, so it doesn't matter now. I can say whatever I want. No, so yeah,
I've moved to Ireland, by the way.
Yeah, nice, excellent. Yeah, so and again, I think probably a lot of people know about this, but I ran what became the largest drone training school in Europe. 66,500 people we trained, put through A2 and GVC, and in 2017. We started to get a little bit disgruntled with the CAA and the level of service that we were receiving as a community, not as a training entity. It didn't really affect us in that sense. But, I'm a model plane flyer from when I was a very small kid, and continued to do that professionally, right? And was very lucky to do so. And on top of that, we did the training. And ultimately, I started speaking out when I thought that the CAA initially started with them, right? So spoke to them and said, look, guys, you're not communicating with the community appropriately or efficiently. You are not speaking to people in the right way, because the people that we're bringing into the industry now, the demographic, the psychographic, the people aren't aviators necessarily that we're bringing into the industry. We have to start speaking to people as if their base level of information isn't a PPL or a CPL, or, they're not airline transport pilot license holders. Neither are the majority of people in the CAA, by the way, now. They're not also, it seems, subject matter experts in what they're subject matter experting. But that's another story. I shouldn't say stuff like that because it'll get me a legal letter. But yeah, so eventually it was just like that no one's listening to us. We are not being listened to. And one of the things that we did was when the EASA rules were coming in to the UK, I set up a YouTube channel, the Mr. MPW channel, and we started doing daily videos where I would break down every single day. I would break down a question that we were being asked by the audience, and we grew that channel to 10,500 people in 6 or 7 weeks. Used to myself. It was pretty rapid, the growth of that channel, because people needed that information and it wasn't coming from the CAA. And the CAA actually internally started using my videos to teach their people what the incoming rules were. Then we found out that the rules that we were going to adopt were going to be different to the EASA rules that we'd been told were going to come in. And one of the, there was all this lack of communication was very frustrating, and lack of knowledge, I would say, as well, was very frustrating. And I actually, similarly to Chris, I went on to another channel and did a live stream with someone, and I spoke out about the CAA. And in this instance, it was I was talking about the OSC system, so the operating safety case system. So people were putting OSCs in, or applications in, or renewals in. And we used to help people with this. We ran a consultation service where we charged a lot of money and helped people get all these permissions. And the permissions were sitting in the system for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, sometimes just not being looked at or being rejected for any reason that they could think of. And it was very strange. It was no standardization in the whole process, it seemed. And I spoke out about that and said that I don't think they're fit for purpose. And actually, I think that the way they are conducting themselves in terms of when you look at their core tenets and the regulators' code, I believe they were in breach of that. And that's, effectively, it's criminal, is what I said, because they're stopping people making a living. They are, people have invested lots of money and time into this. There's lots of expertise out there, and they're just crushing it. And I spoke out about that, not hugely, just mentioned it. And the irony is of all of this is that we went from no communication to me receiving a very well written, in their opinion, legal letter from the head of UAS at the time, and she effectively questioned my fitness of character for running the training school in the letter. And it was a threatening letter, effectively. You know, if you read it in context, it was a threat to say, look, if you continue to talk about us, we will stop you from being the accountable manager for the biggest RAE in the country. At which point I had no choice, really, because my integrity. And again, this is a running theme, right, for those who know the story that's ongoing at the moment with me. But my integrity is such that I can't not speak up, right? I'm not going to be silenced because someone tries to bully me into being silent. So I actually stepped down as the accountable manager. We stopped doing the videos on the Mr. MPW channel, which was heartbreaking to have to do all that. And bad man, that's it. And stepped away from helping, you know, unfortunately. And and it kind of, the business growth, our business growth and everything kind of stopped because that was a huge marketing channel for us.
And what effect did that have on you personally?
It was crushing, to be honest, because we went from a place where we were building this incredible scalable business that we took from, I mean, we were doing, in sterling, we were doing about $500,000 a year, and we did the YouTube channel and grew it to all these people. We did 1.2 million the following year. You know, we were on track to do 2.5 million, and you're into big numbers then, right? In terms of what the resale value of the business is, and how you can scale that as a marketing piece. And I became an influencer or a mini celebrity in the UK drone space just because we were helping people out and trying to do the right thing. And all of a sudden that got taken away from us. And that wasn't the aim, right? The aim was to help people. That was always the aim. That's why we kept the course prices low all the way through, and gave out, well, I say we now, I'm not part of the company anymore, but we gave our courses away for free and only charged for the certification, because for me, it's all about flight safety through education. And unfortunately, the regulator in this case, and still continues to, it seems, they should be doing everything, in my mind, to enable flight safety. That should be their primary purpose. To me, if you are charged with regulating the airspace, your primary purpose should be keeping the airspace, the people who are using that airspace, safe and protected, and the people who could be affected by the users of the airspace safe and protected. The CAA, in my opinion, at the moment and for a very long time, are doing almost the opposite of that, because they're making it so confusing. They're not communicating effectively.
Just jump in on that.
They're not helping people.
The thought process that doesn't happen here, and I'd seen happen in the discussions with the RID in the US, was there's also thought of, we should think about our engagement with the industry, and also kind of, if we put something in that isn't justified, or if it's too expensive and so on, we will then you will fuel people not to comply. There will be a risk there of non-compliance because you've lost trust. And here there doesn't seem to be, that's not even discussed. And they don't even see that they're doing things that we can all see lack credibility, a slightly sinister, wrong, using Gatwick, misusing incident stats when we all know exactly what those mean, and we know they're not crimes. And they keep using them, and they keep bringing this up. And it's like, you're compounding this perception of utter contempt for the industry that you're supposed to serve. And I also think this perception, again, anyone's blog could check me, is closer to the CAA, but it comes across that there's this snobbery that it's, you just drone pilots, you just pick a drone, go and buy a drone, it's easy peasy. You're not proper pilots. You're not flying around an aircraft. You don't count. That everyone else is more important. So airports, we see are more important. An airport can be wrong. It can see a balloon, close the airport down, say it's a drone, cost everyone tons of money, and no one says, actually, wait a minute, we need to have a discussion about why this is going on. That is an airport doing something wrong, because you should have a procedure in place that stops those kind of mistakes. But we're not. We're just we then double down and pretend there was a drone, even when we know there wasn't. And then this again creates mistrust because you're like, come on, you treat us like adults.
So there was a quote. There was a quote I found the other day that I'm going to read to you, and it's about just culture and the whole concept of just culture about about not being punished, and being able to come and fess up effectively to your crimes and not be punished for it, and because of the safety learnings from it. And I get that, and I totally, I've seen cases in healthcare with it, cases in aviation with it, and I totally buy into it. But the actual quote, and I think this is really poignant, a guy called Sidney Decker, who's an Australian who wrote lots of articles on just culture and published an entire book on it. He wrote, "Just culture is fragile. It fails not because people stop believing in safety, but because they stop believing that the people who enforce the rules believe in fairness." And I think that is the absolutely hits the nail on the head in both Matt's case and in both my case, because I don't have any trust anymore. And it's, that trust has been broken. And in the same way that, Matt's tried to use the best educational tools and techniques to empower safe drone flying and credibility within the industry, what I was doing previously was developing safety technologies. And you might see some more of that in Ireland later in the year. And we flew our drone and had radio comms, had VHF radio comms on the low level common frequency, and it ended up talking to 3 Hawks coming the other way at 300 knots. And everybody was really cool about it, because guess what? The Hawks knew where the drone was, and the drone knew where the Hawks were. And because we were trying to push the boundaries of sort of multimodal collaboration, people don't understand it, people don't get it. But actually, when I fly a light aircraft and I see a drone, and I have seen a few drones, it's a case of I see it from both sides of the picture, and it's very easy to start, shouting down at drones because of the entry level when you're a pilot. But that whole sort of ecosphere, the whole just culture, and the role of the regulator, I think is in a really poor place at the moment.
And here's the reality, right? The messaging that I always from day one tried to get across. I used to fly around at low level in the military. I still have colleagues and friends who fly around at low level. We all want to go home to our significant others and families at the end of the day. And the idea for me is that the more people we could reach, the more people we could teach, the more people we could educate and help understand, the longer you make it from the here and now to the accident or incident that invariably, unfortunately, is going to happen, where the knee-jerk reaction is that, right, everyone stops flying, right? And that is incumbent on us. But actually, I think that's the a big part of what the regulators should be doing.
Education, isn't it? It's education.
How is the money that they're generating not being used for that? And for me, it makes total sense. Educate people as a regulator on the rules and make the rules and regulations simple, right? First of all, so that everyone can understand them. And this is a big piece, I think, because you potentially haven't got the right people in the right positions who understand aviation from a basic sense, let alone an advanced sense of crewed or uncrewed, manned or unmanned, whatever it may be. Where are those people, and why have they not got those people in positions that have the ability to say, look, this is what we actually need? 2 rules, right? And it's that foundational. But then the issue is you get the people who are genuinely trying to help get this messaging out there, who are then closed down or shut down, and the organization, in my experience, just stonewalls. So you cannot complain. Well, you can complain, but no one listens to it. There's no outcome from it. There's no result from it. They can, and the other problem is, because they are the poacher and the gamekeeper, right? They are enforcing and regulating. Which, I mean, in what world is that just?
Two things on that. Firstly, you can't make a complaint against a regulatory process to our regulator. You can't complain about the regulatory process. You also it's considered aggressive behavior if you accuse the regulator or a person in the regulator of not being competent.
Yeah.
But it's fine for them to write you a letter saying you're not competent.
Yeah.
So how is that effective in just culture? That's what I want to know.
And the 3 C's also go against that, don't they?
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to say was I've got a medical background where I left Formula One, developed some medical devices, and took that all the way through the regulatory process. Okay, so complete random idea, new sensor, going to build an ECG device. It's going to be USB. It's brilliant. And took that idea, built a product, took it all the way through the regulatory system, got the company ISO 13485 accredited, 9001 accredited, 27001 accredited, got CE mark on the product, and went through that whole process. So I've kind of seen the regulatory side of actually trying to build something and then sell it into the NHS and into other countries' infrastructures. But the key difference, okay, between medical and aviation is that in the UK, the National Competent Authority for Medicine is the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Authority, the MHRA, and they appoint notified bodies. And those notified bodies is how people like me, is how people like me actually apply to get our CE marks on medical devices. And obviously medical devices, you know, the different classes in the same way as we have drones and risk, we have medical devices have different classes of risk associated with them. But we don't go to the Medicines and Health Regulatory Authority and say, here's our technical file, here's our clinical trials results. We take it to a notified body. And so you have the MHRA, and then you have notified bodies like British Standards, TUV, SGS, and all of that. And you actually deal with them. So you actually put in, and they audit you. So you get your 9001, your 13485, and your CE mark on your device. And the key thing is that the notified bodies are separate, but they're managed by the MHRA. And so you come into aviation, and you look at the CAA as the National Competent Authority. And I won't make any comment on that, by the way. National Competent Authority. And then you have to go to them. They've written the rules with the DFT, and the Secretary of State's passed them off. And you have to, instead of going to a third party that the CAA control, you have to go to them. You have to go to RPAS to get your OSC done, or your SORA approved, or whatever it's called this week. And I'm just looking at that. There is no accountability here at all. So in the past, I had an issue with one of the notified bodies. And the reason I had an issue with the notified body, this is quite funny, is they tested our product. They did like 1,400 tests on our product that it had to pass through. And they wrote me back a report saying, your product has failed because it leaked fluid on test 497. And we wrote back saying, we find it hard to believe because there is no fluid inside our product. And they wrote back to us and said, well, we're sorry, we cut and paste that from the wrong customer's report into yours. And we were just like, hang on a minute, you're the quality people. So you're auditing us for our quality procedures. And you may be able to see some similarities here. Anyway, it went forwards and backwards, and they still wouldn't accept it, that our product hadn't got any liquid inside it. And they failed us for it. So in the end, we put a complaint in with the MHRA. Fancy that, I complain a lot when process doesn't work, and as I'm sure Matt does as well. This process didn't work, so we complained to the MHRA, and eventually it all got resolved, and SGS got told very, very clearly to sort it out, and magically it all got sorted very quickly because the MHRA got involved. So you need that overarching authority, and what we don't have in regulatory in the UK and in other systems as well, I hasten to add, is that ability to complain proactively to get a better safety solution to anybody else, because the DFT are like, oh well, they're just arm's length, arm's length, and it's just bonkers. So there are similarities in highly regulated, highly safety critical systems between medicine and aviation, but where we are at the moment, we're in a strange pond of weeds, and and Matt, you're in Canada because of it, and I'm going to Ireland. Hey, top of the morning to you.
Well, I was gonna pick up on the aviation experience and just to pull out my shaft story yet again, dear viewer, you're bored of this one, But in 2010, and this is what you have to consider: the UK has fallen back by 15 years. I can easily prove that because in 2010, half a dozen of us flew at Farnborough. Now, the chap from the CAA who organised that was called Rod Dean. He flew a Spitfire into the show. So there's your aviation experience. He was the man from the CAA. And you say poacher turned gamekeeper. The air display guy, I can't remember his name, that they also came from the CAA, was a renowned scallywag in the low-level and air show circuit. But he ended up being the man. So he was the poacher turned gamekeeper at air shows. But there was intrinsic aviation knowledge was there. And they could easily say, yeah, just go for it. And I'm still in touch with a couple of guys that were with that. And they've all retired out of the CAA. And I was also going to add in a while ago, I can't even remember the year, but Nats had this competition for youngsters. Look, they sent me a cup, which was very good. But they had a competition for safety. And it wasn't based around, it was carrot, not stick. And that's where we went wrong. They should be in air cadet squadrons. They should be in scouts. They should be helping them fly model aircraft. They should be grabbing them by their bootstraps, taking them into engineering. Oh, all right, okay, maybe it's not their remit, but
so about 7 or 8 years ago, I infringed airspace. And I know, and I got pulled up for it. And I worked with the air traffic controllers at Liverpool where I'd infringed. And I was, when I landed, I got, the stern, you've got to call Liverpool, you've infringed. And I was like, hang on, how did that happen? And actually, when I look back at the flight, the reason I infringed, and there was a CIA publication on moving map displays in GA that came out this week, last few days. And I think that's really, really good, because what happened to me was I was flying along, in my little puddle jumper, and I was going to Valley from Blackpool. And I was using Sky Demon in the early days on a Windows tablet, and with a plug-in GNSS USB dongle, and it was going fantastically well. And Windows decided to update Windows 10 mid-flight, and it killed literally everything. And in the reason I only infringed by 200 feet, and it wasn't for particularly long, and that's why it didn't go any further. But it was a case of I was scrabbling around in the back of the puddle jumper looking for the map, which I should have known and should have had out at all times. And I then became just slightly disorientated for a few seconds and hit 200 feet into their airspace. I was very apologetic about it, and I explained what happened, and it was such a unique situation that actually it goes back to just culture, And I fessed up and said, "Yeah, Rick, that's me. I'm calling about this, and I've infringed, and I'm really sorry." And and I was absolutely mortified, because I've been trying to, as you come out of the first death zone of your PPL and you start to get better, and you're trying to fly more accurately, headings, heights, etc. And then to have done that, is just culture resolved that, taught me a valuable lesson in cockpit management. And also, with the air traffickers, and they were more than happy not to escalate it any further. That it had the desired effect on us. And I think that that's an excellent example of just culture. But it's just really hard to try and take that down into drone land, it seems. And,
kind of, but then at the same time, it's actually really simple. You can't have a just culture in the UK drone space at the moment because we have eroded that trust in the regulator, and you can't get that back until that reverses. And we have, unlike the consultations and stuff that have happened recently, we actually have the evidence of this, because when you look at any live stream that we've done, or that I've done, or we've all been involved in, as soon as you start talking about the rules and regulations and the Civil Aviation Authority, the UK CAA, people say, and hundreds of people say, and if you look at any of the comments on the videos that I've done that are on my channel and many other people's channels, people just say, I'm not going to listen anymore. I'm just going to do my own thing. And that one person saying that One person saying that the rules are too confusing, or that there you go, Bruce. Yeah, Mr. Non-compliant, right? One person saying that the rules are too confusing. 100 people saying that, and all of a sudden, then there is an issue that needs to be addressed, and you have to fix that if you are going to genuinely and safely regulate the airspace, in my opinion. And until you fix that, there is no just culture in the industry.
No.
It's that simple.
It's gone. That trust
We-
is gone.
Yeah.
We have
Gary, just to underline, I put the links in, and just if you click some of those and show people, it's absolutely horrendous. People think the post office scandal is the whole problem in the UK. It's the tip of the iceberg, and if you see what goes on, you'll realise that when you're being penalised for your, even most minor drone infringement, it can just snowball into something really serious. So we've got here woman with a brain disorder, mental health problems, prosecuted. So a lot here. They've even written that they've written, this is what happened to me. This is my mitigation. And it turned out these aren't even being read. They're just going stamp. There you go. Dementia in a care home, prosecuted and convicted of not insuring his car. So he's probably not even driving it. It's there, it's parked up, and he's done. Here, terminal illness, not paying the TV license, and it's like that. I am sinking deeper and deeper. I am barely managing. Criminal conviction of costs there applied to him. You can see his letter right in there, ignored.
Are these guys getting convicted because they don't show up to court?
Yeah. And because the systems, all of the systems are becoming automated.
Yeah.
Yes. So with this, you write a letter that's supposed to be read, and then it just turns out isn't being read. So your mitigations are just being ignored. So here we've got window cleaner grieving on the untimely death of his partner. So there's the letter written at the bottom explaining what had happened. And again, boom, stamped. You're convicted. You're a criminal now, and you're paying costs.
No, it is. It was inhumane. It's inhumane. It's just. It's just culture on a bigger scale, isn't it? It's just on a human scale within society.
But it's an intrinsic flaw in the whole system around the world. Because if you see my latest video, you'll know that I'm also being bullied by authorities because I've spoken out and highlighted their inadequacies. And it's something. It's a part of the mechanism, and it's just accepted. This is what we do if we're in bureaucracy. If someone calls us a name, we'll deal to them. It's
I feel
totally
like we don't have
unacceptable.
that in Canada. Like I feel like Don from Don Drones On is pretty critical of Transport Canada.
He's in a nice way, though.
I guess so, but like I feel like he's not banned. Like I feel like his group has grabbed some traction and like they listen to him. I don't know. Is there any CA that's like I deal with all these CAAs like Canada, Australia, UK, and like they're very pleasant for me to deal with, to be honest. Like I don't have this. Now I'm coming from it only from a safety regulatory standpoint, so I'm like drinking the Kool-Aid maybe, but I'm just wondering like. You got to ask Don. Don needs to be here to comment, in my view, on is Canadians accepting, and then we can provide lessons to everyone who's non-American on how to do this.
The funniest thing is, right, I don't have any problem with the CAA regarding my PPL and licensing. Okay, I can phone them up and ask them a question, or I can email them, and I get a really pleasant response. And actually, throughout all of my interactions with the CAA, except for the time when there was a slight Brexit issue and they were massively backlogged, and I complain. But apart from that, and even in that complaint process back in 2017, it was actually really personal and really friendly and really constructive, and people genuinely wanted to help solve the problem. But now, whatever your problem is, they don't want to know about it. It's just like it's a problem, and that is.
Where does that come from, though? Because, like, again, from a Canadian lens, I know that I've had this conversation a few times and had the same messaging that. The Canadian regulator, although it's not their obligation, in like a policy standpoint, they view as the opportunity to use Canada as a test ground. Come get your experience. We've got great regulations. We're ahead of the curve. BV lost in November, etc. Go get that experience. And we want to see people grow and expand and go make money elsewhere from their experience. I guess we still have that in Canada. Like you talk about kind of the old guard being very like they flew in on their own aircraft. for me, I had more issues in 2018 trying to get them to understand drone kind of perspective than aircraft. And today it seems like people who are in Canada, I think a lot of the drone people have crewed aviation experience. One of them were doing inspections on Boeing and et cetera. So like we've got people with relevant experience. I don't know if this is just changing guard and perspective, or I'm kind of, again, I don't have these conflict points, I find.
I think it's very much personality driven, personally. And I think if you challenge certain people who are put in certain positions of responsibility and power, who aren't necessarily potentially capable of, or in a position where they should be, I can kind of say what I want, right? Who aren't potentially equipped to.
The king is coming here next week, so you know. Be mindful. The king is coming.
The king's coming.
Yeah, that is.
Go find him.
I think if you're not in a position where you're comfortable enough dealing with the responsibility, or you don't have the knowledge necessarily, then someone coming along who does is quite a scary prospect. And I've dealt with, and it's fun, Bill's here. I don't know whether Bill's still in, but I've flown eBees in Peru out to 7 kilometers away. And this was in 2017, 2016, 2017. We flew eBees in Peru out to 7 kilometers away from where we're operating. They didn't really have any drone regulations as such. They certainly didn't have BV loss regulations. I did the same in Bermuda, where I flew big heavy lift drones chasing boats around for the America's Cup. I spoke to Bermuda and said, we want to do this. And they were like, you can't do that. Like, that's in the Class D for the Bermuda airport. You're flying around where there's people, flying a drone heavier than we have regulations for. But when I actually then spoke to those people in those regulators, they went, oh, okay, you do know what you're doing. Write the safety case, send it to us. We will read it. And if it makes sense, we'll sign it off. And I've flown the Dominican Republic, flown Africa, flown, Morocco, all these places where we've asked to do weird and wonderful things. And we've been allowed to do it because when you actually engage with them and talk about it sensibly and safely, it's all fine. And it does make total sense. Oh, has my power just gone off? It does make total sense. Unfortunately, they found me. They're parked outside in a black SUV.
That was really quick, wasn't it?
Those ICBMs you talked about. Yeah, so does that answer your question? Like, to me, having worked with lots of different regulators from an operational side and a training perspective, when you actually get through to people who are willing to engage, and there's a big part of it, I think, who are willing to engage and have an open dialogue and listen to you openly and honestly, as if there's almost a just culture in place, then it's very simple and straightforward. I think the problem in the UK personally is that they're looking too far ahead and trying to do something that doesn't even exist yet for the sake of it. And it's like, deal with the problems you've got in front of you right now.
He's going to trigger me again.
I know. And here's the really frustrating thing about the UK drone regulation space is that back in 2013, 2012, when we were flying model helicopters with cameras on, they keep flashing the lights at me. When we were flying model helicopters with big model helicopters with cameras on, there were no rules and regulations. Then one came in where there were 2 regulations, right? Article 166 and Article 167. Oh God! And there were 2 regulations, and that was it, and it made sense. And then it slowly got more and more confusing and difficult, and we're now miles behind everybody else. Like, we were in a position to lead internationally. We were leading internationally. We were the first to have a set of regulations, I think.
Yeah.
And it worked. And now it's just so confusing because I don't think we've got the right people and the right structure doing the right things.
You're right. I think you've nailed it. It's a number of causes, but one of them is that, as Gary said, the authorities used to be full of people who had aviation as a passion, as a hobby, as an interest. Now they're full of bureaucrats who don't know anything about that stuff they're regulating or working with. It's just a job, and they, certain people.
I would disagree with that. I think you got a lot of millennials who came from the drone industry. And you've got
those young folks, Bruce. He's having a go at us, Bruce.
Well, you know what? You've got, from my experience, you've got guys primarily, we'll say 30. I don't see a lot of 20-year-olds, 30 to 50, who came in this with a traditional aviation background, but probably fresh out of school, and maybe didn't spend 10 years inspecting Boeings. So I think Canada's a little ahead, but from my experience, it's like a pretty, like I'm 35, a crowd around my age, a little bit older,
26.
not much younger, but you've got people who come from like experience. Like I deal with different regulators, and like, you know, the guys in the UK I deal with, they work for Amazon, they work for these companies, they've been in the space, so it's not like, and like, I don't know, I guess.
But how much actual, if they in the UK in particular, how
Did they
much
fly?
actual experience did they have? If it's companies like Amazon, big headline companies like that in the UK haven't actually achieved anything. So, you know, is the reason they achieved nothing because those people were there and they didn't have the experience and knowledge, and now they've moved on because they've got the big headline companies on their CV? I don't know.
Again, the CIA prosecuted Amazon Prime Air. Did you know that? They're saying in the UK, the CIA prosecuted Amazon Prime Air for flying. This was like on big commercial airlines. They were flying lithium-ion batteries without permission.
That's probably.
And so yeah, I discovered.
But and then on the public side of things, I guess my question, like, I'm all for calling it as I see it, so I appreciate that. Is it maybe the frontline people don't really care, but it's their uppers who are like, why are you making my team look bad? I'm the department head. Is there maybe some of that element where they're not used to that kind of internet?
I could not possibly comment.
I think, I think you're right. You know, I think the people doing the actual work in the teams are very passionate about it and probably know a lot about their area of expertise, and that's amazing. I think, again, personal opinion, I think it's the upper management who are insecure in their position because they potentially,
or they're not used to being called. Like Boeing doesn't go on YouTube and say, "This guy screwed up my MCAS review," right?
Yeah.
There's one thing I stumbled across when we were doing the Morecambe Bay stuff, and as I said, I didn't actually fly the Morecambe. I'm not a pilot. I just sort things out and arrange technology and develop IP that way. Okay, so if I want, you know, I bring somebody to fly. But when we were trying to fly the Griffin, we would fly another camera drone alongside it so we'd get some good shots. Trying to find somebody who could fly that camera drone alongside the Griffin was really hard. And actually, we ended up with a pilot, a Brazilian guy who we know very well, who's very funny, and he's in his early 30s. He's a gamer from Brazil, and his stick manipulation was amazing. And he was out, so the Griffin would go out and he'd fly a box, we were keeping it VLOS at all times, and it would be out flying a box, and he'd just fly along behind it. And then as the Griffin turned, he'd then just fly along sideways, and then he'd fly backwards, and he would catch the drone. So he would basically follow it at all times, keeping both, tracking the drone, but he was flying forwards, backwards, sideways. And it struck me there and then that actually the gamers, the next generation, those people who spent a lot of time, their muscle memory and their stick control is infinitely better, and they don't fly. It's just, the key thing on this is they don't fly looking out the front window. And all of the senior management at the CAA who've got there, have got their experience. All of their experience is looking out the front window, and for them to comprehend that that actually somebody's going to fly sideways and backwards, is quite, to me, is I would imagine that's really hard for them to fathom. And as you come down the ranks and all of that, you've got these, the different generations with different natural experience levels and natural stick inputs, ability. And this is why I don't fly. I get people to do it for, get the best people to do it in the safest possible way. I did wonder, actually, is this a cultural thing that, suddenly, how many drone pilots are there in the UK, Ian?
300.
Hang on.
The figure's always changing, son, and I don't trust any figures these days.
So what are the numbers? How many drone pilots you got there then?
513,860.
Okay.
That's a lot. We only have like 110,000 in Canada, and we're what, 66% of your population?
390,000 more than there are in all the other trades. Hashtag just saying.
Wow.
So if people then say, well, it doesn't really matter if it's going to cost us a 50p a flight or whatever. It's the numbers are soon going to add up, isn't it?
Doesn't it slightly, if you're in senior management of a regulator and you've got your aviation experience has always been looking out the front window. If suddenly like 500,000 people turn up flying sideways and backwards,
well, yeah.
Do you not see the cultural shift and I think it's really, as we go through the next 10 years, it is going to shift more and more down to the gamer stick control geniuses that we found.
But that's kind of a different conversation, really, and it's a really cool one to have, I think. But I'm not going to point the wrong way. But Matt mentioned, future flight, and there it is at the top of that slide. That's where someone nicked it from for me. This was not for general publication. That future flight. It's bloody now flight is what we need to talk about. Now flight, not future flight. Doesn't matter. Sorry, I'll get off my high horse.
Well, here's the thing, though. It does matter, but it doesn't matter potentially right now as much. It's not the be-all and end-all. Right now, we need to concentrate on right now and looking ahead a year, because Christ, a year is a long time in the drone industry. A lot changes in 12 months, right? Technologically, regulated from a regulatory perspective, from a financial perspective, like a lot changes. And maybe that's it. But here's the thing, right? Like, what's the outcome of this, right? Like for me, fundamentally, like the CAA to me, it was more of a freedom of speech impact that it had on me. And that to me is massive regulatory overreach.
I can possibly comment.
Yeah, that's it. So I'll take it as the same.
Comment.
And there's the stonewalling. So like, at what point?
Well, what I can tell you is that at the moment we're looking possibly at 2 Regulation 6 reviews, one DFT ICA review, 1 judicial review, and I think there's 2 outstanding complaints as well. And you just wonder about this, okay? And it's like, this is the only way forward for me in this position. That's the only way forward. Have you any idea how much paperwork that causes us? Unfortunately, I've got people to help me with that, and it's all good. But on the other side, you just wonder how much of the regulator's time is being taken up by all of these things. And it's just a way of handling, and all of this. It's just killed Just Culture. That has just shot Just Culture down completely. The only way you can resolve this is to use our regulation. It's like, really?
Derek, can you just get all the regulators to come on all at once?
Yeah.
Not enough coffee in the world for that.
I've sat in like sessions where you had like the UK, the Canadian, and the FAA all speaking on like pretty bluntly. I don't know. Is that you should send an email, CC them each, so they can see each other.
In the past, we have had people on, but I feel they would be somewhat reluctant these days. It's tricky, isn't it? Somebody mentioned this was going to be a bit like Private Eye in the UK, and that's kind of, the industry does need that. It needs, Private Eye is a satirical magazine that exposes it, whilst funny, it also exposes all sorts of really petty and in some cases large crimes and miscarriages of justice. And the industry honestly needs that. We need to really get away from this rah, rah, rah. We have the fastest, highest, heaviest load carrying, best G-Whiz thing. It needs to get back to, again, Matt said earlier, actionable data. It needs to get back to drones working and things working.
Making commercial models that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commercial models that work.
And here's the thing, you can't build a commercial model that works in a regulatory landscape that is as flexible as the regulator wants it to be.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It needs to be, these are the rules and regulations for the next 3 years, 5 years. Now you can build the aircraft you need to be able to capture the data that you need, to capture the data that you need, that the clients need, that allows you to create a successful business.
All right, so all Americans go on mute, or turn off your headphones. Come to Canada. We have that. Like,
yes.
So from my perspective, I've lost my flyer ID and I'm banned from flying any UAS, any, not just I can't even fly
And model aircrafts.
And model aircraft. Yes, you're right.
That's ridiculous. I said never allow registration to come in because it gives them the ability to bar you from the hobby if they remove that regulation or remove the registration you've got. And you can't imagine if stamp collectors was told, no, you can't collect stamps anymore. I'm sorry.
What about
okay.
Just to play devil's advocate, what about that Philadelphia guy that continually flew his Mini at like
Mikey? Yeah, he's a good bloke.
He's a chop. We have all sorts of.
I know.
But he's a chop. There's all sorts of rules and regs in life. We don't need to invent new ones.
To be fair, though, he did kill a lot of people.
He did. Yes, true. Yes.
So anyway, as a summary, lost my flyer ID, companies have lost their operations ID, and I'm not flying drones until further notice. Okay? I just won't take the Mini
in the UK.
I just won't take the Mini 4 on holiday with the kids. It'll be fine, But the funniest thing is that I live quite near Tahitian, and I may pop over to the Isle of Man next week and do some Mini 4 flying.
Because could you grab like an Inspire and just like walk around with it and take videos and post it? Like, could you like troll? Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if it works, it works, right? If it works,
you just want the footage, right?
I see a merch line. I see a merch line.
You can surely fly sub 250 that doesn't have a camera though.
So,
there's no camera.
You make a valid point. Bruce. It's actually on the letter it says no. You must not fly any UAS in UK airspace.
I'd dispute that. I'd make a big noise about that. Why are they banning you from flying a tiny toy airplane, a paper airplane? It's a UAS, paper airplane. Why? I can see the Daily Mail headline now. Man banned from flying paper airplanes. Paper cuts can kill.
This is true. I cannot comment. But what I will say is that I have decided to sat next to me over there is an awful lot of display drones for the Drone Light Show company. And so I am off to the Professional Light and Sound Association North meeting tomorrow and selling the Drone Light Show company. So by the time this is resolved, those drones will have been superseded probably another time, as in another iteration will have come out. And I've just got to the stage now of, this is actually quite heavy. I've actually got to the stage now of just thinking, well, what's the point? But it's going to take us till September, October. So I may as well just shift the whole lot. So only needs an accountable manager, you see, for the operational authorization to renew. So we just sell the company, find some new accountable manager in that company, and so there you go. So that's my plan is to do that and move on. Happy days.
And you guys are talking about long-lived regulations to give you some surety. Well, in New Zealand, our regs have been in place for 10 years, haven't been updated, haven't been changed. There's a backside to that. So if you're that far behind the rest of the world, it's another impediment to progress. And Cliff raised a good point. Who was it? Cliff. In New Zealand, the CAO said if you fly a drone, you're a pilot. That's their statement, their official statement. If you fly a drone, you're a pilot, which is kind of good because they also say if you're a pilot, you can fly within 4 kilometers of an airfield as a general exemption for pilots. So if you're flying it, there's no exclusion zone around airports now because the CAA have said if you fly a drone, you're a pilot, and a pilot can fly within 4 kilometers of an airfield. They don't know what they're doing. They just the left hand, right hand, no connection. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It sounds like you just buzzkilled all the pilots, though. Do they know this? Do they know that if everyone's a pilot and a pilot can do? Like, are you just like, you just open up the floodworks?
That's it.
You're a pilot. You're a pilot. You're a pilot. You're a pilot.
Drone pilots can go out now and give it I've got my wings, I'm a pilot.
Yeah, here we are.
I've seen Gary. I sent the link in the private chat to that page on the CA website in New Zealand that says if you fly a drone, you're a pilot.
I think that comes from something ICAO published. I've got a feeling that in the back of my mind there is a legal definition of pilot and the difference between pilot and operator. And I think some aviation authorities wanted to call drone pilots operators, but the ICAO turned around and went that you can't do that because operators are commercial entities, blah blah blah, or whatever. So I think that actually goes up to ICAO for that.
I feel like we're getting into the whole, is Katy Perry an astronaut because she went above the carbon line?
No.
Well, now, yeah. Wow.
Why would you transport a vacuum into a vacuum? I don't understand.
No, I've got the answer to that. She technically was baggage.
Very good.
Oh, that's
You're
good.
glad you invited me on now, aren't you?
Yeah, no, that's it. That's absolutely amazing. Look, we've nearly come to an hour and a half. So how are we gonna to end this conversation? Just stop this all now. How are we gonna what is the conclusion? That as ever the regulations are stuffed and the regulator in the UK is being particularly unhelpful to grow the industry over there. They're not allowing people the space. Is that the bottom line?
In the meantime, my plumbing skills and gardening skills are coming massively.
No, that's very good. Yeah, quite so.
My leeks, I tell you, my leeks are doing really well this year. Maybe it's the good weather. I don't know.
Is that because you're a plumber?
I like what you did there.
Oh, there you go. You line them up, mate. I think that's it, right? We know what the issues are, but the big question is, how do you fix them? And for me, and this has been what I've said to the CAA from the very beginning, it's all about communication, and that communication runs in both directions, and that is the only way that you're going to get back to a just culture, which includes the trust that you need for everyone to lean on the regulator and vice versa. And it's actually really simple to fix, but you have to be willing and open to listening to other people and implementing change. And as I've said all along, if the CA want to chat about it and how easy it is to fix, and they'll come back and go, it's not that simple. It is that simple. And if it isn't that simple, change something, because you have the power to change it. What's the incentive?
Yeah.
I think the incentive is that if they get everybody on board with the way that they want and need things to go to generate money, then actually, would you rather have everyone rowing in different directions to the regulator, or would they rather have everyone rowing?
Needs to be, they need to generate revenue to cover their bills. They're not like a tradition, like Transport Canada isn't so much fee driven as much. The UKCA is very fee driven. So the argument is if we can get on the same page, your pie is going to get bigger,
big time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's better for everybody, surely.
More coffee, more biscuits, yay!
Yeah,
rising tide, lifting all boats, and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so actually, it's a positive thing, right? But they've got to get to that positive point and get everyone on board.
I think there's some really good people in the CAA, which
Big
may come as a surprise for me to say that. But actually, when I've had technical conversations with people, technical specialists about detect and avoid and about EC and stuff like that, we've been able to have really, really good conversations. And and some of the stuff that we've been working on is bonkers. And is like next gen stuff, which will never fly because we might sort the next 10 years out. But it's so there are really, really good people in the CAA. But unfortunately, the processes and some of the processes are not documented. And
isn't that where you're supposed to go to like your MP or MLA and like go to your member of parliament and discuss? Like,
in the perfect world,
we have.
Do you
I believe my MP got stonewalled by them.
Yeah, and so this is the problem. Sorry, Chris, just jumping in on this. So this is one of the issues I had when they sent me my letter shutting me down. I wrote to my MP and I went through the due process that exists in a democratic society, that you should be able to say, look, I'm not happy about this. This is impacting me and my business and my family and other families who use my business to pay their mortgages. Can you help? And the CAA stonewalled my MP completely. They didn't. They wouldn't even speak to my MP because they considered it a legal matter. And it was like, what? No. And I've complained a number of times via my MP, and they've just turned around and said, I've spoken to the aviation minister and they'll raise it with the CAA. And that's as far as it ever gets.
Do you think we could get more leverage with the CAA if we offered to tip Ian's body in a plastic bag into a quarry somewhere?
Well, Ian's had similar. Yeah, no, it's a shocking situation. We're going to follow.
One of the things I'm going to close with, I need to go, is that the Civil Aviation Regulations 1991, obviously were passed in 1991. The Human Rights Act was passed in 1998. And I think there is a massive disconnect between culturally in the CAA regulated Civil Aviation Act, Civil Aviation Regulations, Air Navigation Order. We must, we must operate to those rigid rules that 1971 when we were formed. It's a 1971 mentality trying to operate in a 1998 post 1998 Human Rights Act world. And I think that is the big cultural difference that, it's not 1971 anymore upstairs at the CAA. Your constitution needs to change. Your constitution needs a massive overhaul to bring you into, to deal with 500,000 drone pilots, none of which are going to fit RID. That's the problem. I've got to scoot. That's my That's my
It's a big picture thing. We're going to follow your Schedule 6 K6. What is it? Schedule Summary 6. Regulation 6 case with great interest. And dear CAA viewer, I'm sure we look forward to hearing whatever you send to somebody tomorrow, whichever somebody that is. I'm sure something will come of it. Dear viewer, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for being here. Matt, thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again next week, 2100 Gin and Tonic. Look after yourselves out there. Also, UVSI coming up and other things. But no, we'll talk about that next week. Cheers all. Bye-bye for now. 1 and 2.